Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Amateur Repair Time. Special Christmas episode. I've been working on this Silvertone radio all month, if you haven't seen the videos, and we finally, this cool old floor model radio, and we finally got it all tested and up and running on the last video. So I figured we'd do one more video putting the thing back together, getting it all finished up, and it'd be a good one to run today. So we still need to do all kinds of little stuff to it. I need to get some knobs too. That's going to be a tough one. Anybody got any 1937 Silvertone knobs laying around? Yeah, I didn't think so. So we've got several things we need to do on it. We need to do that. We need to get the light bulbs working on the front of it here, the dial. I need to get this is slipping. Need to figure out what's going on with that. We need to clean the knobs, or I guess those three. I'm going to make sure I've got the best tubes that I've got in it, instead of the ones that are in it are a little bit, are the original ones and they're not in great shape. I want to test some voltages under it to make sure everything's kind of doing what we think it's doing. And then I want to put it back in the cabinet, clean it up a little bit, and maybe put some Restore finish on the cabinet. So we're going to do all that in this video. So I think the very first thing that I will do is figure out which tubes I want to leave in it. One thing I noticed was some of these tubes are these little short ones. And the problem with that is, like this 6K7, the problem with that is it's so short that it's down inside of the interference tin. So there's a little wire that needs to clip on the top of it. But since it's so short, it's hard for that wire to reach to it. So I'm better off with the glass ones. I think I've got a couple more of those that I found. But I'm going to see if I can just switch in the ones that I think are what we're going to leave in it, because if we end up having to align it, we kind of need to have the stuff in it that we're going to leave in it. So let me do that first. I'll start with this. The rectifier tube is fine. We tested it. I'm going to see if maybe I've got a Silvertone one to put in it, since it's a Silvertone, and if I don't, we'll just leave that one, and then we'll move through some of the rest of them. Then I can put all these tubes up and get them out of the way first. All right, so the rectifiers, I didn't have an actual Silvertone, so I just left one in it that was in it. All of those tests are really good. You know, they're kind of usually working or not working. If you watched on one of the previous videos, I forgot to mention it last time, but this 6Q7, I had one in it, and then I had, it's the detector. And I had one that I found, and both of them just tested crazy bad. So I ordered two new ones, actually, one to put in it and one so I'd have a spare. So last time, whenever we got it working, it was with a brand new, or a new old stock 6Q7. So I'm going to put this one in my tube display over here in the 6Q7 box, and move right along. I'm using boxes to mark the ones that I've tested that are decent, that I'm putting in storage. I threw away the two 6Q7s that were bad though. So here's the new old stock 6Q7. I wanted to make sure that it's going to test better than those other ones did, or if the whole system is screwed up. Okay, well, I'm getting like 64 on it, I guess you would call it. The other ones were way down here, so they were certainly worn. This one might be used too, who knows? Just because it's in a new box doesn't mean it's new. But the radio is working with the one that's in it, so we're going to leave that alone. This is the only one we got anyway. All right, so I tested all of them again, and I put the ones in there that were the strongest. It's about how it was earlier. The volume's a little in and out depending on where if I'm up loud, we're good.
For a membership that promises the benefit, an Amazon spokesperson says the company made the...
But this volume knob needs cleaned. We're coming up on that. But the only way to test these cat eye magic eye tubes is in the actual radio, at least that I can do. So this one looks pretty good. And it does actually work. There's not a ton of movement on it, but. And again, I don't have an antenna hooked up, by the way. This is just grabbing it out of the air with no antenna wire even hooked up. But basically, you know, for the Magic Eye, you're just looking at how bright it is. So that's the brightness of this one. I've got two more here that I'm going to check out. These are all 6U5s. I believe that's correct. I'm trying to see. Yep, 6U5. So I've got 3 of them. Okay, so this is number 1. This is the one that was in the radio. Let me put another one in. All right, this is number 2. It's so dim you can barely see it. It just, it's about done. Let's see if it works though whenever you tune off the station so I don't get a copyright strike. I guess it works a little bit. There may be something wrong with that circuit, or it could just be I don't have an antenna hooked up. It runs off the AVC circuit from what I understand. But that one's super dim, it's almost useless. And you don't really even need one in the machine. I think it'll run without it, but I mean in the radio. But I think I'll keep it and I'll just mark it as really, really, really dim. All right, so this is our third one. And I just had these in a bunch of junk tubes basically. And it looks like it's damaged actually. Well, I guess you do see it moving a little bit in there, but it's just not how it's supposed to be. All right, let me put the other one back in. All right, so yeah, that first one's definitely the brightest. So we'll leave that one in there. And after we hook up an antenna, we'll see if it changes the width of how much it moves or anything. All right, so next up, I think I'm going to clean the volume pot, the band selector switch, and the tone knob. All right, so I sprayed contract cleaner on it. I put a little bit of oil just on the where the shaft goes into it, and we seem to be much better now. So the tone knob is easier to turn. Okay, and the volume knob. Now when you go down, you lose your volume, which I would expect that's how it's supposed to be. Before it would only go, you still had volume. And it'll go way up, and no matter where you set it, it's very smooth and it stays at that volume.
So we've collected all the data and put it
right
there in a database for you by going to responsibletechnology.org. So thank you, Wayne. That's excellent information.
Let's go to John in Wisconsin. Hello, John.
It's pretty, at least this channel has very little interference too. It just sounds good. So cool. And we can do the band select. That's a little bit harder because you're physically moving that contraption there. I put a little oil on it, but without a knob, it's hard to turn. Okay.
When I look at the food manufacturing in 2024.
All right, so that's cool. So let me see if I can figure out what's going on with this thing here. Basically, whenever you turn this, it doesn't turn the pulley there.
Like Jeffrey, Bobby Kennedy Jr.
And so it never changes the channel. So I've got to see something's slipping or needs tightened or something. All right, so there's this support on the front for it. And then there's this that's held on with a little set screw. Right. And I didn't have to do all that. I just didn't understand how it worked. But this piece here fits over that knurled part. And if you look, there's a little tiny set screw in the side of it. So hopefully that will tighten right back up. Right there. And then it will turn whenever that shaft there turns. Well, the set screw either was never there or it's missing. But we've got it. So what I did was I just took some Teflon tape and wrapped around. If you looked on the inside of that, you could see where it had been in contact with that. And when I looked on the sides of it, I never saw anywhere where a set screw has been hitting it. So it could just be that it was a tighter fit at some point and it just loosened up over time. That casing has cracked if you look. So it may have just loosened over time. So I put some Teflon tape on it, which just basically thickens it up. And it's better than trying to super glue it. So yeah, I think that'll be all right. So I'm gonna loop the wire back around it and put the other stuff back on, and we'll see if it works. All right, so I got a couple pinball bulbs in it. I mean radio bulbs in it. And this isn't the right knob, so it slips. It doesn't hold on there right. But if you look, we're turning now. I can't believe the reception it gets, that it gets anything at all with no antenna. I mean, it gets a, you know, it's not great, but it gets a little bit. And this thing, the way it has that like slip clutch, you have to turn it pretty severely to get it go back the other way. That's just how it's designed. So all of the strongest channels it's getting a little bit with no antenna.
The law, which was 430 years after, cannot
Your right to AM radio in your car. AM is always there in times of need.
Ain't that the truth?
For our community, the overwhelming majority of legislators support a bill to keep AM radio in cars, but time's running out. Please text two letters AM to 52886 and ask Congress to bring this bill to the floor for a vote now.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages upon text stop to stop. A message from the station.
If you're a business owner.
Okay.
As I was watching the film outdoors, and I saw my old professor up there on the screen. I didn't make the connection. And it was there I met Paul Heineck, your friend. And, yeah.
All right, so it seems to turn pretty good if I get the knob to turn the shaft, actually.
The therapy, I did about 100 of those.
Might do the Teflon trick on it till we get the actual correct knob in.
by faith in Christ Jesus.
There's a country station at 650 out of Nashville, but I can't get it with no antenna. Okay, so we need knobs. I'm gonna tilt the thing up and check some voltages compared to the schematics just to see if we're in the ballpark before we go ahead and bolt it in the machine, just to make sure there's nothing, you know, bad going on. Now I know what you're saying. Probably should have done that originally, but hey, it's amateur repair time, okay? But I'm just gonna check some things because they've got a lot of voltages listed on the schematics. I'm just gonna check and see if we're in the ballpark on that. I imagine they're all a little high because here at the house, we've got about 125 volts, and this thing was probably designed to run on like 115. I've had it on this ammeter the whole time just because I'm watching to see if anything shorts out. If I go back up to that really strong station, well, my knob will turn.
To picture yourself somewhere. And I said, who do you want to have come and sit
Okay, I'm
with
gonna turn
you?
it all the way up.
His father.
It'll probably mute it on YouTube here.
So as we were interviewing his father, again, I can't see him, but Paul can. I said to the father, do you remember me? And he said, yes, you were very annoying.
Okay, so this is a 75 amp radio at 105 volts, I think it said. And if you do the math, if it's 75 amps, it should be like 0.61. I mean, 75 watts, it should be like 0.61 of an amp or something like that. So we're a little high, but it's nothing crazy. There's probably a resistor out of spec a little bit or something. You know, I replaced a few of them, but there's probably something just a little bit out of spec, and it's making it draw a little bit more amperage. I don't really know if tubes can do that or what would cause that, but or if it's maybe the speaker as it gets older, it's drawing more wattage or something. I don't know. I guess it's in the power supply actually. So maybe if I change the rectifier tube, it would change that or something. I don't know. I'm not gonna worry about it because it's not crazy out of line. You know, it's just that's. I think that's within the ballpark. Yeah, I think it's supposed to be a little over 0.6, but we're running more voltage through it, so it's probably a little higher. And it's at times you'll see it up around 0.8, and it kind of stays between 0.75 and 0.8 usually. So I'm fine with that. But I left that hooked up the whole time just to make sure that nothing crazy happened. All right, so yeah, I'm gonna tilt it up and check some voltages and just make sure that it seems like everything is similar to what it's supposed to be. Just as an aside, I don't know if it was on this video earlier or if it was on the last video, I had some clocks ticking and talking in the background. So it was two of them, this one and this one. And they both stopped at the same time. I had them wound all the way up, and they've just been running for about a week, you know, so they're like 8-day clocks. And they both stopped at exactly the same time. They were both set and stopped at the exact same time. Interesting. All right, I'll think about that a little bit. Think I'll go watch The Conjuring. Okay, so I'm checking some voltages. We've got one little issue. It's playing a thing about the Three Stooges right now. It's kind of funny. This rectifier, we've got 350 volts here, which is correct. That's what we're supposed to have. Okay, but then it comes up here, and it looks like, now, I don't know what I'm doing really, but the 350 volts, if you look, the only place that it goes to this side of the capacitor, but it goes up to the socket for the speaker, which of course I've got plugged in. And then it goes through this speaker field coil and then back out the other side. So my issue is that 350, I've got 351 volts, it's saying 350 here, which is correct. So even though we've got a higher input voltage than they would have historically, it's putting out the correct 350 volts. But when it runs through that field coil out the other side, we're supposed to get 245 volts, but we're getting 305 volts. It's high. It's like 50 volts high, 60 volts high. And I think the reason for that is this doesn't measure 1,000 ohms. It measures 650 ohms. So I don't know if that's common for the speaker field coil after a while to start shorting a little bit. Not short as in it's going to blow up, but it's getting shorter. It's no longer 1,000 ohms, it's 650 ohms. I don't know if they've swapped the wrong speaker in there at some point or what, but that's what we're looking at. So for whatever reason, that's measuring 650 instead of 1,000. You might be able to mess around with that and add another resistor, maybe a 400 ohm resistor somewhere, and get that voltage down, but I don't know that it's that big of a problem. I guess I need to look it up to see, look up these tubes and see if they can run off 305 volts. But if you look, it's going to do that on every one of them. So this one actually doesn't get it. This one, instead of 245, we're at like 300 ohms. I mean, 300 volts. Now, the 100 volt we're supposed to have here, we've got 105, so it's not that off. The 6 volt we're supposed to have here, we've got 12. You know, nothing's perfect, but it's within reason. This one's pretty bad. It's supposed to be 225. It's at 280. Again, 245 is 300. It's supposed to have 95 here, but we've got 99. This one, the cathode, I think that means it's supposed to be 6. I'm measuring 1. So I'm just working through and seeing what I've got. The thing's playing fine, so I don't know that I'm going to change anything. But I guess I need to see if we're going to burn this up. Does the P stand for plate? Plate voltage? It's up at 300 volts instead of 245. All right, I was reading that wrong. That's not saying 1 volt. That's ground. So it's saying that's pin 6, pin 5, pin maybe 4 and 5. It's saying pin 6. I think that's what it's saying. But anyway, it's clearly connected to ground, so I shouldn't be getting a reading. I got a 1 there. I don't know what that's all about, but so my main issue is the plate voltage is too high, and this voltage here is just fine. I think close enough. Yeah, so that's that. So I'm going to, like I said, check the plate voltage, see if it's all right. I didn't check this one, I guess. We'll see. But yeah, I need to see if that like a 6L7G can handle 300 volts instead of 245 volts.
Welcome back to Next Take here on 100.1 FM and AM 1020 KDKI. I'm Colin Ferguson. I'm Casey Withers.
I'm Natalie Silverman.
A woman in Westmoreland County may have been thrown
Okay.
away a sinkhole.
So I had to mod it. Some of you, again, are going to love this. Some of you are going to hate it. It's running at 300 volts, 305 volts even. That's too high. It's supposed to be 245. So I did a bunch of research on it. The rated maximum is 300 volts. I'm running it at 272 now. All right, I checked just to make sure. Yeah, the maximum allowable is 300 on this tube at least. They're running it at 245. I would assume we could go look them up, but these must have a maximum of 300 too, or they wouldn't be running it that close to where it should be. So typical is 250, which is why they've designed the circuit at 245. We were running it at 300. That's going to burn them up because it was even a little over 300. It was at 305 whenever I tested it over here. So you're running it full out. So there's like several things going on. One, the newer meters measure voltages a little higher than the meters did in the 30s because there was a more of a load on the original style meters. I've got one over there actually. I guess I could check it out. It's not that big of a deal. So there's that. And then the other thing is the wall voltage is much higher than it used to be. It was supposed to be 115 back in the day. They're saying power supply, all models available, 100 to 125 volts, 50 to 60 cycles, 75 watts. I don't know. So maybe they thought that it could run at 125. That's about what we're running at. We're up at like 123, 125 volts here at the house. Okay. So that's going to bump up your voltage. Then also, instead of a 25 microfarad capacitor, they had a 24 actually in there. They had a 16 and an 8 wired in parallel. I replaced it with a 33, which is just the modern number. I mean, you can't get a 24 really anymore, and you can't get a 25 really anymore at 450 volts. So I put a 33 in, so that's too high, so that's going to bump the voltage up a little bit. But interestingly enough, at this rectifier, the transformer is putting out 350 volts. On mine, it's at 351 volts. So, I mean, it's actually correct for this part. And that would include the capacitor too, I believe, because, I mean, we're testing right here. We're at 351 volts. Across the cap, we're at 351 volts. So anyway, the problem comes, like I said, whenever you get up here to this field coil, instead of 1,000 ohms, it's 650 ohms. So what I did was, if you look, this line here comes up and goes into that field coil. That's the next place that it goes. I had a resistor. I had a 620 ohm resistor. 15 watt. So that's got me up to 1270, right? Which is a little higher, but it's all right. But the way they had it wired, it comes through and then it should have been 245 at this point. They have connected it to one of the pins that goes to the speaker or the transformer, right? The output transformer. So they have put this at this should be 245. So after it runs through the, or maybe it's on this side, after it runs through the coil, you got 245 at this side, and they jumpered it over to the one side of the speaker transformer. And the other side is here. It's connected here to the plate voltage, okay, of the output transformer. All of that to say, what I did was, because it was a convenient place to mount it, there is a line that connects from here to here, right? So what I did was I disconnected this where they were jumpered together here. I left the line that connected to here, but I just jumpered it to there. And then I connected the resistor from here to there. That's electronically what I did, at least. So what's going on is it's coming up 351. It's running through the field coil. It's dropping down to 305. And then it's running through my resistor from here to here, which is dropping it down to 272, which is within tolerance, right? It's still high, but it's not as high, and it's not so high that I'm afraid it's going to burn up the tubes. So it's at 272 here, and then the original wire that was here, I've now just got connected to this one pin, which is the speaker coil, and then they have it jumpered off from there going to the other tubes. Right? So all that to say, I've lowered the voltage on all of them to 272 instead of 300. I thought it might be off. I've messed with these before, and you always end up with your voltages all over the place. So I'm going to check and see what this plate voltage is on this, and then run through the voltages again and just see if I get better numbers on everything, or if it's just going to lower that one voltage. Want to hear the most annoying noise in the world? A friend of mine popped up with the schematics and brought me a copy of his schematics that he ordered years ago. So the schematics do exist. I've already done most of the stuff you need schematics for. However, I need to align it. So I'm going through and aligning it. And it's a good thing he brought them to me, because the alignment procedures are completely different. I shouldn't say completely different, but they're in a different order. And, well, wait a minute. I guess that's actually the same. There's a couple different, in the other schematics that was different. But anyway, I've got, so I'm going through, and it's the typical thing where it's already aligned. The thing just has held its alignment all this time. You wouldn't think that would even be possible. Maybe somebody aligned it with the previous tubes, and since I left a lot of the tubes that were in it, maybe it's just remained aligned, or maybe I'll run into more problems as I go down here. But I'm going through and going by the book and aligning it. The stuff up here, some of that I wasn't able to do, but I'm doing this and getting all the little trimmer adjustments. We already did the 2 IF cans, and now I'm down to these. So yeah, there isn't much to adjust so far, but I'm tinkering with it a little bit. All right, so I don't have a suitable antenna wire, so I've just ran a speaker wire down the hallway. And I am getting a little bit on short. I'm trying to do shortwave, right? So I got one channel in at least. So I don't know. So we'll keep going. See if we catch anything else. The hell was that? So we're getting something there. It does sound Spanish, and it's putting me somewhere near Mexico. Isn't shortwave, isn't it set up, or the way it works is you can't get certain signals at certain times of the day or something? So I have to try it at different times. And of course I need an antenna too. Nothing. Nothing. Okay? So I'm on the amateur radio or police band.
And if I'm not too mistaken, I'm almost certain that
Call letters.
that was written by Mr. Eddie Rabbit.
Country.
Official Science, well, I know it was. And I think he wrote it primarily for Elvis at the time, and Elvis had a good hit off that thing. And we want to kind of correspond with you, just get some insight in what you think, what you like.
What's your name?
And you can contact Worldwide Country Radio by email by punching in these little letters right here, CDM WWCR at hotmail.com. CDM WWCR at hotmail.com. And if you want to put pen to paper, it's Worldwide Country Radio in care of WWCR 1300 WWCR Avenue in Nashville, Tennessee. And the zip is 37218 in the USA. Once more, the postal. It's Worldwide Country Radio in care of WWCR at 1300 WWCR Avenue in Nashville, Tennessee, 37218 in the U and the S and even the A.
All right.
There's the hag right here, Mighty Burrow.
There's the hag. Let's go see what Worldwide Country Radio broadcasts on. All right, you may be able to hear Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers in the background. This is Wikipedia. WWCR has 4 transmitters, shifting frequencies throughout the day, each with 100 kilowatts of broadcast power. All frequencies are in megahertz. Now we are right at 5 megahertz. And if you look, WWCR, now it says 40 degrees northeast. I don't know what that means, but it says 4.84 night. It's nighttime right now. We must be catching that one. That's pretty cool. I have no clue how it works, but anything that brings Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers into my house over the airwaves is fantastic. Okay, so it's actually, it used to be Worldwide Country Radio, but now the thing is called Worldwide Christian Radio. Almost every show is religious, but right in the middle of the night on this channel, they play a country program for a couple hours in honor of their original programming, apparently. So I don't know. I think our alignment's decent, I guess, as far as the dial. But I wasn't getting hardly anything on the actual shortwave channel. I guess this is shortwave too, but maybe it's medium wave. What is it? All right, now let's check out the AM. Let's check out AM here. We'll start at the top and work our way down. I don't think there's anything up this high anyway. Whoa! I got the yard birds coming in over my speaker wire. Well, welcome to the 60s, Silvertone. They probably missed the 60s. All right, so if in this part of the video there's big areas that are quiet or they're missing or it's just a jump cut, it's because YouTube didn't like me playing music. Whoa, we could have went in farther. Oh, and also I've got it on the tinny sound. So that's 3 separate channels right there.
Look, I'm the source for that particular story. Yeah, it was something more.
It's picking up all kinds of stuff, but nothing strong enough to come in. I've heard people say in other countries that they don't have anything on AM radio. We actually have a ton of stuff around here, so I don't know if it's all over the United States there's nothing, but here in Charlotte, there's all kinds of stuff. I mean, there might be 30 channels on a really good set with an antenna hooked up, you know. Like, I can listen to this. Obviously, it's Hispanic. That's music, I just can't make it out. That's music. And by the way, the Hispanic stuff like that, I love it. I can sit here and listen to it. I don't have any clue what they're saying. I pick up a word every once in a while, but I love it. I think it's nice, upbeat music. I've had people explain the lyrics to me before. Usually it's stuff you can get behind. So I ain't got no problem with it.
The DC Sports Huddle podcast. On behalf of this people.
For real. So you're not even going to sign for a whole wave of recruits coming in and stretching?
It's got a little slip thing on the, I don't know if you saw it in the earlier video or the earlier videos, but there's a little thing on here where you turn it one way and then you have to turn it all the way back the other way to get it to catch, to go back. However, once you put this is one of the correct knobs that just goes down here. I'm waiting on a couple other ones. Once you put a correct style knob on it, it's got a really cool little design where, so I'm going down, right? So if I get to something that I want to adjust in, I went past it. If you turn it, it doesn't catch it, but it's got some kind of little slip clutch in there where it allows it to just turn a little bit, so you get fine tuning out of it. So we'll go past it and then go back to it. But you have to turn it all the way until it catches right there before it'll move it. It's just, it's a cool design. Probably expensive as hell to design that back in the day. So as you can hear, the problem isn't we don't have anything on the radio. We got way too much on the radio. It's hard to get it to tune in. All right, so we're right on top of 1110, which is the local Clear Channel station, which is super loud. So we should get that here somewhere right through here.
North Carolina. I'm surrounded by Camp Lejeune and Cherry Point. And, I mean, this is a military.
So that's what an actual channel sounds like, and you can see that the magic eye has done its thing. So we'll go off of it. You can see the magic eye move. So that's off the station. And I guess that's fully tuned.
And that's the thing I think people are afraid of, the government included, is it's going to be perceived as Big Brother. Well, look, if it, just tell us what the intent is. You know, what is it you're trying to achieve? And if it's in the interest, best interest of...
All right, let's keep going. So we want to get down to 650, which is WSM out of Nashville, which usually comes in pretty decent on a decent radio. Tons of channels, though. What's that? Probably 10 channels so far that you could feasibly listen to?
Also on Sunday, the 10-3 Bills, the 12-1 Lions.
AM 1020, KDKA.
1020.
Life matters. The late nights, the extra shifts, the moments you've stood up.
About right.
I stopped this at University of Maryland Global Campus.
Caller Josh Allen is admired how Dan Kidd
much gas and risk the end of her pregnancy unless there had been a deadline drop, a la April 15th.
And we echo the sun that comes down through the night from the heavenly throne.
Negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible.
Yeah.
Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can
be in that conversation. Just credit to all the guys on this squad. We've had a really good year to this point.
Yeah, this is probably the most sensitive radio I've had. It's probably just because I've got an antenna, a puny antenna hooked up to it. I'm getting all kinds of channels.
Reporting Hollywood Brown back at practice for the Chiefs this week, designated to return from
Il y a une scène, là, je me rappelle d'une scène où le postier va ouvrir la porte, mon frère
Yeah.
la porte, puis il va ouvrir la porte.
Yeah.
Et moi, je sais qui est le personnage là, qui vient de frapper à la porte. Lui, il le sait aussi, puis le lecteur s'en doute aussi. Et quand il ouvre la porte, c'est pas ce personnage-là qui est là, c'est un autre. Okay. Alors moi, je suis en train de
Exactly.
Hein, comment ça, pourquoi, qu'est-ce qui se passe? Et, ben oui, ok, il y a une
Oui.
logique à ça.
Alors, ce que je retiens de ça, c'est que dans le travail créatif, c'est bien d'avoir une idée générale d'où on s'en va.
Ne parlez français.
Why not get it when it's in Oregon? Why wait till it's all the way to Florida? So they would go back to their tribal area or back to their family home.
We're so going to get WSM. It's definitely going to happen.
Then why don't we have some tech to pull that thing down? Whether it be, I felt like when drones first came out, you know, and we still don't know, even though there's a public outcry going.
Yeah, another paper that was the essential collection of Arthur Fiedler and the Boston Pops Orchestra, a 3-CD collection.
Crazy. I've never had this many channels.
Items, rare coin and stamp collections.
3-hour news is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.
If you like listening to Red Eye On Demand, we have more of Eric Harley and guests for you. Download RER's Extra Mile podcast. More topics.
Redwood Radio on Westwood One. That's not a good one to find. Westwood One has like 100 affiliates, so it's hard to tell.
Healthy habits.
This is WSBB-FM and HD1 Doraville. 95.5 WSB, Atlanta's news and talk. WSBB-FM and HD1 Doraville. WSB Atlanta. News, weather.
95.5 WSB, Atlanta's news and talk.
So clearly we were getting something out of Atlanta around 7:50. We just missed the Electric Light Orchestra. Oh, wait a minute, we didn't miss them, did we? No, we did miss it. It speeds up at the end, but it was past it.
Dr. Pepper. It's a white sedan shot him. He was taken to the University of Manhattan VA. Alvin Bragg was saying Friday. Indications are.
Look out the
Bengals game day forecast for this Sunday's showdown in the Music City. There'll be some morning showers possible in Nashville, but should be clearing out by kickoff. We'll see overcast skies with a high of 57.
Sex trafficking and racketeering case. Combs was already denied bail 3 times by 3 different judges.
All right, so 650 WSM is the big country channel out of Nashville. So we know it should, the country channel ought to be dead on 650.
Devin Williams will be a free agent at the end of next season.
That was probably it. That's R&B at like 620. All right, let's find 650. No, we don't get it. I can't believe we get all those channels. We don't get my favorite one. Well, it could be the way the radio's sitting too. If I could turn it a little bit, it might get it. All right, so I'm gonna go back up to the top and try to find that that station that was playing like old rock and roll. That was awesome. Where was it? 1600, somewhere around there?
He was waiting for me on Monday night, doing everything when he...
So I think that's probably as good as I'm going to get it adjusted. So I need to mount it back in the cabinet. Need to figure out what bolts to put in it so it stays in the cabinet. And then we need to clean up the finish of the cabinet a little bit. Put some Restore finish on it, make it look a little better. And then we need to mount the new knobs to it, which are actually old knobs. I found the originals, unbelievably. And that's about it. So I think we got the thing working. Heck yeah. So the little bezel on the front has 4 little plastic posts on it. And they're held in place by these little nuts. And these are called, well, this says speed nuts. This says number 10 flat. It's a flat nut is what they're called if you try to order them. And I found some at Lowe's. These are the wrong size. I think 1/4 inch is the correct size. but I was able to get these to work. And look, they're made in the USA. So we're putting USA parts in our USA radio. That's good. So I cleaned up the lens. Like I showed before, it's melted up here. Somebody was saying that it could just be that the plastic deteriorated. Nah, it's because that eye is right there. And so that's the only part that's melted. The rest of it's in good shape. It's just right around that eye. So it doesn't hold back where it's supposed to be perfectly, but I don't mind stuff like that. It doesn't bother me at all. But it's mounted on there well, and it's the original piece. So until somebody makes a really nice reproduction, I'll just leave it like that. Okay, folks, so I mounted the chassis back in there. It used number 8 screws, which back in the day might have been called 5/32, I believe. I got it in there pretty good. It was the chassis was a little bit low. There must have been some kind of little bumpers under it originally, or maybe there was like a cloth blanket or something. Asbestos blanket. So what I did was, to get it slightly higher, I took toothpicks and put under the corners, which lifted it just enough that it made it about right. So now I'm rubbing the finish. I am not a furniture restorer, but they sell this stuff. I've seen it at the antique mall, but they also have it at Home Depot. This stuff is amazing. Restore a finish. It's basically, I think it's got a little bit of stain in it, but it's not really stain. It's like a polish with stain in it. So they make several different colors. I'm using walnut. I believe this was walnut. They make a mahogany, and they make a dark walnut, which I think is kind of what that is. I haven't done any of these. I did that one with dark walnut. It's not even this thing was destroyed. If you didn't see that video, it looked the worst I've ever seen. And I probably did that a year ago, and it's held up really well. Look how nice the finish on it looks still. And then this one, this Bendix here, this thing was in really bad shape too. I believe that may be the walnut stain on that one. It just kind of cleans it up. It hides a lot of the scratches and stuff on it. So you don't have to refinish it completely. It just kind of accents what's already there. So that's what I'm going to do here. I made a little test area to show you. This has been finished. And I left the strip there that hasn't. Can you believe that? It's just an incredible product. I mean, I wish they would sponsor me or something, because I'm not getting paid to tell you this. It's just, this stuff works great. What does it say? Restores color to faded wood finishes, blends out scratches and blemishes, removes white heat rings, easy wipe on, wipe off. Yeah, there is a white ring right there. It took some of it off. It's not gonna get rid of all of it, I don't think, but it's just it's a miraculous product. So I'm going to lightly rub over the whole surface and clean it up with that. Sometimes if you got like a bunch of dirt on it that you can tell, Murphy's oil soap works really good on that too. It's basically like it's to clean wood floors with. But so let me see if I can get a little bit of shine on it, and we'll see how it turns out. So you can see it didn't get the whole ring out, but just watch what an incredible product this is. I just dabbed a little bit on this, and you see all of this here. I mean, do I look like I'm really working myself? Look at that. I mean, it's just an amazing product. And since you're using the correct color, it doesn't drastically change the appearance. I'm sure there's some stain in it. That's the only way they're going to get that to work. But it must be kind of trying to reactivate the lacquer or something on it. But it's just an amazing product. I can't believe how well it works. So I've been using it on a bunch of old stuff, and it just, if you don't have the ability or the time to completely refinish one, this is the way to go. Well, you can see that it is cleaned up very nicely with that Restore finish.
Sam had been gone for 3 weeks now, and there was
I just can't believe that product.
Up until that point, it was like...
To me, this is like as nice as it gets. I mean, I know you can completely restore it, sand it down, take everything out, refinish it, clean the grill cloth, replace it. But to this old country boy, that's just fine.
26, one of the prison officials came to the cell I was in. He called my name and he indicated that I was being moved. And as he escorted me out front, he stopped and he said,
"Beautiful.
You're very lucky. President Assad has agreed to release you."
They insist on telling us about Syria on the radio.
So many times in the past 2 months that I had essentially become immune to believing it like this.
Wow. Okay, so the only thing this needs, the last thing it needs is the original knobs from 1937, and that's not easy. But I think I might have them. I have found the volume knob. So we need it first, right? Let's see if I can get it to go on there. And it'll only go kind of one way. You know, all of this is harder when you are trying to film it. Ooh, smooth. And by the way, I was able to get WSM once I moved it over here to where I want to put it. Pretty cool. Awesome. All right, so now the lever one, that's kind of the weirdest one. If you look real close, there are little markings on it, which is kind of cool. And there is the lever. I figured that would be the hardest one to get. But we got it. Cool. So now yeah, look how cool. Tune, and with the Silvertone logo. So circa 1937, this is what Silvertone was putting on their radios. Let's see if we can get it to line up just right. It's hard to do this with one hand. Have I mentioned that yet? All right, so we finally got it where it can finally tune easily. And you can see the little slip thing I was talking about. When I go back, it's just going to barely move, so you can fine tune it. But if you eventually you get all the way back around, and it'll go more, and then you can go back. It's got like a little